And it was actually really cool because we can do this more frequently now than when we were doing face to face and reach more people because they don't have to commute. And when we were meeting in Lawrenceville, that was much more difficult. Now it's a click on your computer over lunch and get some hopefully encouragement, direction, information, and then go on with your day. So it's a really great opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you, Rich.
Mhm.
So ditto as to why I jumped on it when you asked me to do it. Another part of that is, how do you say no to Beth Copeland? Um,
Y'all are
just
bad.
don't. I mean, even before I became a member of GCBN, I did a presentation at a training that Beth was a part of, and she decided that I was going to be involved in GCBN and told me about it 2 years later. So, so how do you say no to Beth? I'm a Bridgman Bartell. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I also hold credentials as a master addictions counselor and a certified clinical trauma professional. And I'm an Air Force veteran. And I've been in compassionate care since 1976.
Awesome. Awesome. So thank you both for sharing, and for our participating audience on Facebook Live, thank you for joining us today. And as you can hear, they are certainly capable and certifiable that to assist today. So what I want to ask those, and I'll chat it on Facebook Live, is please participate. I can communicate to them what your questions are, your feedback. So feel free to make this interactive. If you're in a position and you can get on Zoom with us, we love that. We would love that very much. So I'm putting it out there to you guys. Make this, I know it's relevant, but make this, own it is what I'm trying to say. Own this show for yourself. Own this time of healing and wellness for yourself. And so embrace it is the word that I'm looking for. And by embracing it, you have to be a part of it by engaging in it. Okay? All right. Okay.
So today we're looking at contentment in the workplace or the marketplace. We've looked at, basically inner contentment and contentment in intimate and personal relationships. And so today we're really looking at why have contentment in the marketplace or the workplace. And I was sharing with Rich earlier that the first thing that came to my mind, it's a scripture that the Lord is saying to Israel. He's reminding Israel of how he wants to interact with them. But I think it's very apropos for our discussion today. And it says in Amos 3:3, how can two walk together unless they agree? And if you are working with someone or for someone, it is impossible for you to accomplish whatever the vision, mission, or goal of your organization or business is if you're not able to use the slang phrase, be on the same page with them. And contentment, remember we defined contentment in the past, and it has really to do with just kind of it is what it is, and being at peace. And in this instance, in the workplace, it has to do with being able to communicate with one another, to share ideas back and forth, to not think more highly of yourself than you ought to think, to recognize that your coworkers or even your supervisees' input is just as important as your own. when you don't offer that kind of respect, when you don't bring that kind of contentment and peace into the relationship, tension builds and people are less likely to complete tasks in the manner that you want them completed. And not sometimes not even because they're being defiant, but because you're not even able to convey what it is that you want because you are not being respectful of them. And contentment, last week we talked about how contentment involves empathy, respect, and compassion. And all of those things should be present between coworkers as well as supervisors to supervisees. What do you think, Rich? Does that?
Oh yeah, that was very well stated, Pamela. There's so many interactions in the marketplace and in businesses, and everybody influences everybody else. But those of us who are looking to be influencers, whether we're leaders or just coworkers or even we're supervisees, our level of internal contentment we pass on to other people, which then influences the entire environment. And that contentment, I think, really increases productivity.
Yeah, which is what I was trying to say. And that internal contentment, I like your phrase, Rich, that internal contentment has also to do with a sense of self-worth, a sense of self-value, not in terms of arrogance or any of that, but just that belief. And for us as Christ followers, knowing that we're fearfully and wonderfully made, and that each of us has been given a gift because we are fearfully and wonderfully made and we're in his image, and embracing that. So that's what I mean when I talk about self-esteem or self-worth, not the boasting yourself up,
Right.
but just accepting who you are in Christ, and we're putting God back in business. And that's one of the ways that we do that is that we allow him to flow through us. And he can only flow through us when we have the sense of submission to him, which we do when we feel that we have worth. And as supervisors or managers, or like I am, I'm a CEO and I have a number of contractors working for me. Part of my responsibility is what Jesus said. He said that those who will be great, right, let them be servant of all. And one of the things that we as managers, supervisors, owners need to recognize is that we actually should be serving those who are working for us. Yeah, we hire them, but there's a sense of respect and service that we bring to the marketplace, right? That will allow there to be an atmosphere of contentment in our businesses.
And I have to chime in here from coming out of corporate and even have an opportunity to coach director levels and executives. One of the things that I find is so lacking in today's workplace is the opportunity for servant leadership. We don't understand that enough in corporate America, and not to try to proselytize in the workplace or anything like that, but the model that Jesus demonstrated during his earthly walk is so productive, efficient, is so necessary. It helps people to be productive in the workplace. If you want to really rally folk in, engage in them, you have to learn how to serve first in order to lead. What I find a lot is a misinterpretation of leadership and management.
Right.
You know, where's the opportunity to lead? Where's the opportunity to manage? And those confused a whole gamut. It's just so confusing that you think you get promoted because you've done a good job and performance-wise, but not having leadership skills and the qualifications doesn't position you as the best candidate, from my opinion, to be promoted to a place of leadership. And that's
again, as we are talking about this topic, as we're talking about peace and contentment, that servant mentality is the one that will allow you to express peace and empathy, compassion, and will thus allow people to be willing to follow you because you are expressing those elements of contentment, and people will then be willing to follow you and not just kind of begrudgingly doing it because they know I have to do this to get my paycheck on Friday.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Very good. Wonderful.
Yeah, there's a lot in all that you've been saying. Couple words stand out, and I talk to people about this when it's either it's workplace or family. The idea of leadership. If you're leading, to me that means you're going first. So you're whatever it is you want to set up, you go and do it first. And that's what Jesus did. He did the things first. It's like, follow me. He demonstrated it. He repeated it. And then they modeled it after him.
Yeah, contrary to what some people think, you can't lead from behind.
No, that's called pushing.
Right.
That's not leading. Yeah. And
I like that, Rich. Yeah. That's called pushing. And who wants to be pushed?
That's
pushing is certainly not
I like
respectful.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And if you're pushing someone, they're not, if you're having to push someone, just Rich, that is so awesome. Because if you're having to push someone, they're not utilizing their strength, you know, their power, their energy. And so if you take that to the marketplace, there's got to be discontentment because obviously I'm not all in. And so because I'm not utilizing myself to be a part of this, you're having to push me. And it's going to be a constant push if you don't get my buy-in.
And then what happens then, as you said, about discontentment? Now, instead of a contentment, you have chaos in the workplace, or you have conflict in the workplace.
And resistance, you know, because I'm contrary. So one thing that I believe, if I were to have a synopsis of thus far in here, there's the opportunity is to establish that contentment. And I know you said we've defined it before, but it might be good to do a recap right about now. But what I want to say prior to your doing that is to also mention that a necessity, if we're going to experience contentment or a level of peace in the marketplace, is it, according to what you were saying out of Amos 3:3, that it starts at the top. And so we need to make sure that we're investing in those that are in leadership positions, that because they're going to have an impact on those that follow. And in addition to that, as we're investing, there's an opportunity for servant leadership. And we can define that. You know, one of my books comes to mind, and I really had no intentions of plugging here, but I will. And it's a good Bible study, How to Lead People Without Losing Your Mind. And it is an awesome book. And I believe my son, some years ago, Romy challenged me, Mom, you need to rewrite this for the marketplace. And because I'd have to extract the scriptures it's easily done, but the strength of it to me is as is with the scriptures referencing, which is the truth, and being able to look at that in a translation of the Bible that makes it so plain to understand the necessity for it. So I'm loving this. Y'all continue.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking as you were talking about leading and top-down influence on contentment, there are those of us out there who aren't in quote-unquote leadership positions. I mean, we're in an entry-level thing. We're the one that at the bottom of the totem pole, so to speak. There's nobody below us, there's just above us.
Mm-hmm.
We too can be influencers and technically leaders in bringing contentment into the marketplace for whatever job you have to do, whether it's taking out the trash or cleaning bathrooms or whatever other kind of, not necessarily popular job would be there. You can be content, and that's where you are at your time and do the job well. And a lot of stereotype seems to be complaining that people are in that level of whatever responsibility that they're discontent. And I think you can have
back to that definition, Rich, that we gave them with contentment having to do with having a sense of happiness and satisfaction. And the scripture that we referenced when we first gave the definition was where Paul said, I have learned. Remember, we talked about contentment can be learned. I have learned to be content no matter the circumstance. Is what one translation says.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely, Rich.
And it ties in what you're talking about value. And if I value myself because I know I'm valued by God, then it really doesn't matter what I do. There's a quote my wife has on the refrigerator. I can't remember who said it, but it might be Brother Lawrence. The idea that it doesn't matter what we do, but we can do everything to the glory of God.
Yeah.
So I can be content that I'm just serving God. Kind of what Paul was saying. I'm trying to be content because what I'm doing is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Wow.
Yeah, that passage says whether a base or bounding, no matter up or down.
Yeah.
Because my contentment, which is one of the reasons I don't particularly like the Webster definition of contentment, the happiness part. Excuse me, because happiness has the same prefix as the word happening, which means that, it's based on what's happening around me.
Right.
And yet Paul says, I can be content. I have learned to be content no matter what's happening around me. And learning to be content. And one of the things that we're talking about next week is how to be content in the marketplace. So we're talking this week about why be content, but we're gonna get very specific next week about how to be content.
Awesome. Because, and I don't want to fast forward to next week, but what you just described just sparked within me, that's something that's inner. Because if Webster's definition are compared to Paul's truth that he was speaking, the difference is learning. I've learned. It's an opportunity to introspect, if you will. But I'll leave that alone for now. But what I do want to say to you all, and I want to thank Vernice for joining us on Zoom. Thank you for participating. I see a couple of people, several people that are out on Facebook Live. I know Lee Gantz with us. Thank you, Lee, for joining us. And I can't see whomever else is there. So please jot your name out there so we can just send you a shout out. But what I did, just for your information, Rich and Pamela, is an opportunity. I see Jessica's out there. Thank you for watching and joining us. I asked questions like, what are tips you could share for successful engagement in your workplace? And then I came behind with this question: do you have any areas of concern that we might be able to assist you in flushing out regarding relationships in your workplace? So I want you to know that I'm asking our listening and viewing audience to please participate on this level, because we're here. This is your opportunity. This is your time that we want to help. There's Julia. Hi, Julia. I just had a memory from you I'm going to share later today. Julia Johnson's out there. Thank you. But one thing that I wanted to say, you mentioned that it starts with the leadership. However, Rich mentioned something that I was hoping we get in today, because this is something that I have to often coach with my coaching clients. I'm just a worker bee, if you will, or however you position that. And I'm not in the place of leadership. I teach something that's called manage up. Do you understand what I mean by that? And so it's the opportunity. You're number two, you're number one in a number two position, so to speak. And so you have a level of understanding beyond what your leader in the authority realm within the workplace, that is, has. And so therefore, you have to learn, in order to maintain the peace within you, how to manage up. Am I skipping to next week? Or is this okay to put this
a little bit, but that's okay.
Okay.
There are two things that came to my mind as you were talking about that. One is I talk about peer influencers also. So you have managers, but then the people who are on the same level with you, right? On that little hierarchical organization chart.
Organizational chart.
You peer influence as well. So you can kind of exude your contentment to your peers and influence them in that way. And that goes back to communication, which again, hopefully we'll talk a whole lot more next week about specifics about how to execute, if you will.
Excellent. Excellent. Good word. Execute. That's good. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm out there. I want to read a couple of comments. We've gotten some feedback here. We've got Jessica out there, Julia, Susan, Lee, of course, I mentioned. This is wonderful. But Julia made a comment. This discussion is on time. And she also went on to say, awesome. And Susan said, hey, Susan here listening in. Thank you for investing your time in us. So this is right on time, this topic. And I'm totally, you know what I said pre-show. I love anything dealing with relationships. And I know last week I probably showed a little bit of transparency and passion at home, because we were talking about relationships in general, and because I know it's the thing that is challenging, and God is a God of relationships. And I mentioned earlier pre-show that I believe that I'm challenged because extended family wise, this is something that is constantly challenging to me, that God just continues to utilize to empower my love walk because of these challenges. And because I have to help so many other people through coaching this. But the opportunity today that I believe that you're doing and what people are saying is you're helping us in the marketplace, because those are our greatest opportunities for witnessing. And if we're going to be challenged in relationships in the marketplace and we're not demonstrating walking it out as positive, we're missing our opportunities for witnessing. So any other opportunities to share with us? How do we harness this? How do we walk this out? How do we model Christ in these difficult, challenging times?
Mhm.
Yeah, this one is from my spiritual perspective, but one of the things that I consistently pray is over in Galatians, right? Lord, let me manifest the fruit of the Spirit.
Uh-huh.
It is by walking in the fruit of the Spirit, by our personalities. I call that passage the personality of Jesus.
Uh-huh.
By letting me have the personality of Jesus, it's going to hoist me over into contentment. How can you not experience contentment? How can you not be empathetic and compassionate and all those things that we talked about in the last couple of weeks
Uh-huh.
if you are walking in the fruit of the Spirit?
Okay. Okay.
Right?
Okay. Very, very good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's several of those we'll parse out next week when we're talking about executing this. What does love really mean? and which is the first fruit that's listed. And you will see how walking in love is what brings contentment and peace, not just in your family, but into the marketplace. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm looking forward to talking about.
100%. And next week, I want to, I'm sending all these plugs out for my books, but next week, my Fruit of the Spirit at Work book is individual standalones for the 9 parts of the fruit. And love, of course, is the first, is foundational.
Right.
I wrote of a practical definition of love for the marketplace, and I'll share that next week then.
Good.
Okay.
Because that's where I start when I start talking about how to have contentment at work or in the marketplace.
Mhm.
I mean, that's where it has to start. That's the very foundation. Remember when we were talking about relationships last week, Rich, and I talked about Gottman's Sound Relationship House?
Mm-hmm.
And this Sound Relationship House talks about trust and commitment and a foundation of love. And that's not just in relationships in the family. That's in any relationship.
Excellent.
Including relationships in the marketplace.
Yep.
Excellent. Excellent. One of the things, Rich, and I'd like to hear what you and Pamela think, and Pamela almost said it a second ago. There's a scripture, I think it's Colossians 3:23, and it says, whatsoever you do, do it heartily as unto the Lord, and not unto men. And so when we go into the workplace, if we're utilizing that scripture as foundational, because covertly our service is where? To the Lord. But overtly, openly, what we're doing is we're serving that one that's of authority. And so it used to be that at times, I'm going to be transparent and very forthright here. There are times I'd be looking right at my manager, and I mean, at that time, I'm on the Southeast Regional Credit and Collections Manager for our Fortune 500 company. And she'd be sitting across to me, just really, really challenging me. and I'd see her, and I would have to vision that, God, you're standing behind her and she's speaking to me. And I mean, y'all can say Beth's a little kooky here, but I had to do that to see that I wasn't focused on her, but he was actually there, and I'm reporting through to him, but directly I'm having to respond
Uh,
to her, but he's
that
watching
passage,
over me and the response that I'm giving. Mhm. Yeah,
that passage is Colossians 3:23 and 24.
right, right. That's what I said, Colossians 3:23. I didn't say 24, but yeah, that had to, I guess it was my stance, so to speak. That was my stance that, God, the work that I'm doing is for you. And honestly, it's what maintained and kept me for a year or so till I could actually get and continue to be of service to me. But I mean, really visually, I had to imagine that there he was, and he's watching over, and I'm serving you. I'm not doing it for her glory. Byproduct, but
Yeah,
I'm doing it for his glory. And it proved that this was a non-believer. And she actually, when she left, she gave me feedback to say, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you survived. Basically what she was saying, I don't know how you survived me. Yeah, it's pretty rough, but it's good.
this is why, Beth, we're putting God back in business.
Exactly.
This is what we're focusing on, making sure
Yeah.
that God is in business, because that's what helps us to have that sense of contentment no matter what's going on around us,
Excellent.
because we are working as unto Him and not to humans.
Right, right. So I have a couple of comments here that thanks for joining us, Avon, on Facebook. Angela is here today. Jamie Briggs, we appreciate you. And Angela Ruffin has made a comment. She says, yes, all that we do is to honor God. Our character, keyword, represents him. He placed us in these positions for a reason, to grow, learn, and mature in him. That is so awesome.
And our character goes back to the fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah.
That's our character.
Yeah. Excellent. And would you help with peer-to-peer? I go in here, and I believe I'm in the marketplace for exactly what Angela just shared. There's salt and light, but I've got this coworker that, maybe we're both in a place of leadership in the job, but I'll speak, they don't speak, they don't respond. They're sabotaging everything that I say or do. How do you deal with the coworker that maybe it's not one over authority that you're challenged with, but more people being received by your peers and on a non-authority level? Help us with that. I want to maintain my peace. I'm brave, but I do understand that I used to say this, and I write about this, on the job witness, OJW. I want to be that on the job witness. But how, when I'm challenged with these
Are
peers?
you not going to let us wait till next week? Go ahead, Rich.
I'm not. Okay, push back. I receive it.
No, that's it. No, Rich is gonna respond. We gotta have something for next week's.
Why are you not waiting?
Okay, I'm done. Sorry, guys.
Hard to
But
wait.
No.
I'll tell you.
Like, it's come up, so we'll address it.
Hear this.
We'll go in more detail next week. But Rich, what's your initial response, though?
Of how to deal with the conflicting coworker. But a couple of things that come to my mind. One, contentment is, like Pamela was saying, it's the fruit of the Spirit. That's receiving. Right? I was thinking you used happiness, and the preface of that is happening. I looked at contentment, and it's content, right? That's there. So what does it contain? So if you're going to contain the spirit, contain the truth, then you're going to be able to manage what's going on around you much better. Now we can't get it's easy to lose sight of that and get more concerned about what's happening than what we're containing. Sometimes I think we need to seek support around us who's reminding us of what content we have inside of us. Because without support, it's really difficult to be consistent retaining that content.
And greater is the one that's in us than the one that's in the world. And we have to also remember that we can only manage our own behaviors. We can't change anybody else's behavior. We can't change the way they think. We can't change their motivations. We can only be consistent in our own ethical behavior and not take things personally. Recognize that no matter what they're doing or saying, it's not about you. It's about their own lack of ethics. It's not about you.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, I'm willing to talk much more about that next week, Beth, when we're going to be talking about how to have contentment in the workplace.
Awesome. And I'm sorry, I apologize because I'm getting ahead of it, but it's so important. But they're so close there. You have to admit, it's so close there.
Yeah.
It's when we're talking about why is it important to see that. But I like what a couple of comments have come in, and I like to share those from Facebook. Angela is in agreement with something you just said. We are responsible for our actions. It is hard, all caps hard, so shouting it hard. The devil is busy. Stay strong and kill them with kindness, which is the title of my kindness chapter, Kill It with Kindness, and the fruit of the Spirit at work. So I agree with you, Angela. Susan has commented, pray for them. Ask God for his help in dealing with them. Things will begin to change. And that is also a great aspect and a great approach, I should say, because I know both of those together is what helped me with that manager that I described to you. I would bless her. I would look for opportunities to give her a gift card for lunch or something. She could just blast me. She could just totally disrespect me. But I always bounce back in love. Now, I'm going to be honest, though. For a while there, I internalized, and for years, I had a bald spot. You know, the 2 years until I learned I was doing the actions, but it was taking a toll on me. But I've got my inner peace, and this is why this is so valuable right now to help others with, is once you do the action that God is requiring of you, it's what Susan said. It's when you start to pray for them and pray in sincerity, not doing it according to Romans 12. I used to say, I'm heaping coals, and I was getting satisfaction in heaping the coals. Okay, but what God just wants us to do it in a loving way, and it's almost seeing it, would you agree or push back, as they're in a pitiful state, because one of you said earlier, it's coming and is springing forth out of what's internally at unrest within the other person. Is that true?
Right. It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with their own, whatever their own dreams and hopes and lack thereof.
Okay.
It's about them.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Wonderful. Are there any other comments? Bernice, do you have any input or questions here on Zoom? Thank you for being with us. And also from Facebook, we've had a consistent, this must be a hot topic. Numerous people have been on there, some great activity and response. Any final comments from you all?
No, but I do want to pre-advertise next month's topic. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about that.
Okay, so next month, well, Rich, can you remember?
I know.
Okay,
I know.
go ahead.
Yeah, it's conflict and looking at all the different parts of conflict, how to deal with it, where does it come from, what are some of your responses for it, both in business, personal aspects. I can't remember all the details off the top of my head, but that was the topic that formed, I guess, for month of October.
So basically, we're going to be looking at conflict not just management, but conflict resolution.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to simply manage it. We actually want to resolve it.
Right.
I'm so looking forward to that because in the trying times, even pre-COVID, to be honest with you, conflict and how to get to that place and be ministers of reconciliation. I hope you'll cover that as well. But even because most of the time we hear conflict, we hear related to the parties involved. But help us as ministers of reconciliation.
Right.
How do we be of value when conflict? Because what we see happening in today's society is a lot of conflict. What we also see happening is there's not a lot of ministers
Resolution
of
or
reconciliation. It's like, I'm going to get on this side or I'm going to get on this side. But bridging the two together, hopefully you're dealing with conflict will be able to assist us in that regard, please.
So I wanted to mention that and invite those of you who are on Zoom and on Facebook to join us on the Wednesdays in October, because we're going to be talking about conflict in October. And then our last topic for this month is about how to actually execute the contentment in the marketplace. And then we will summarize all 4 topics that we've talked about this month.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent, excellent. You have a couple other comments on Zoom here. Bernice has responded. No questions, but great conversation. Thank you, Bernice. On
Thank
Facebook,
you, Bernice.
Yes. Amos 3:3. This is from Lee Gant. Amos 3:3 has been a verse given to me many years ago from the Living Bible. I love that. I'll have to look it up from the Living Bible.
Yeah, I think I quoted it from NASB is where I quoted it from.
Okay. And Lee goes on to say, for how can we walk together with your sins between us? Tells me to clear my heart to be closer to God and others. That is so.
I like that version. I like that.
I love it. Maybe the translation, I'm not sure. But that is so powerful. For how can we walk together with your sins between us? Whoa, that is so awesome. And here late, I've been actually just reading. I love my King James Version. I just love it. That's my first love. But I'm learning how to look and compare to what's the most appropriate for God allow the translations for this purpose, because I may get it readily or may not. But it's so good to help when you're writing to look at the comparatives there. So that is so wonderful. And I want to thank everyone for joining us. And I've got a couple of announcements I'd like to make concerning Georgia Christian Business Network. And we're putting God back in business. I want to invite those of you that are on Facebook or Zoom, Bernice, if you're not already a member of Georgia Christian Business Network, would you consider joining us? Visit our website, www.gcbnetwork.com. We have programs such as this, our Standard Tuesday, Take Charge Tuesday Empowerment. We bring on platform guests. I know in November, you all are Rich is gonna have a guest. Pam's gonna be outside missing for that entire month. She has a busy November. And so Rich is gonna bring on different guests, or it might just be Rich and I. I'll pretend I'm Pamela. No, but so the opportunity here is to connect with us, support our network. We have some awesome opportunities, and I'm going to tell you about a couple of them. I heard a request from a couple of members that we need more information about nonprofits. You know, how do we complete Form 990 loan form? Because that's what's going to help us get us grants. And so we're going to do a workshop. It's going to be all about nonprofits, how to position the homework. I forget the exact title, but it's going to be on November 7th. And it's $47 for non-members. For GCBN members, it's only $27, and it's hands-on. And so we've got Dr. Tanae with TEW Accounting, Akalatsi with TEW Accounting, that's going to facilitate that. Then we have Rob Bingham, who is a GCBN sponsor, that is going to share with us. I believe it's going to be on the 6th, the 14th or the 15th, 13th. We haven't exactly hone in on that exact time, but he's going to talk about time management and productivity. Lisa just shared with us on Tuesday how to utilize the project management tool Trello yesterday. And so we decided to create a workshop out of that. That'll be happening in November as well. We have some other announcements that we'll be sharing with you. On next Tuesday, we're so excited to bring Brett Campbell to the GCBN platform. So please tune in on Tuesdays. So excited that starting in October, starting next month, we've got an opportunity to bring on Letitia Joyner White, and she's going to talk about marketplace mentorship and how to climb the ladder in the workplace, talking from several P's that she wants to share: prepared, position. And she is also our newest GCBN corporate sponsor, her and her husband, Sam White. In addition to that, we've got so many opportunities to bring on awesome programs, and we need your support. So please continue to tune in, to share our network with others, and to just be a part of what we're doing here at Georgia Christian Business Network. Thank you so much. Any final comments, Rich?
Yeah, I had a few I was thinking about as you and Pamela were talking about some things, and went back to the subtitle you had for this week. Why have marketplace that encourages contentment? Being an engineer from original training, efficiency and quality are important things that stand out to me for marketplace. You're thinking about businesses, and whether we're leaders or worker bees, like you said, having the contentment, I think, really increases productivity and customer satisfaction, and also employee satisfaction. So we're thinking about marketplace and business. That's very, very important motivation for why. And it's what we're looking for. It's not just how, look at how next week, but the why. I'm also, as a counselor and just a human, I think one of the other things I focus on is the why. Like, without answering the why, we don't have a whole lot to stand on.
Wow.
And it changes how we approach the world when we understand why. Works in parenting, works in a variety of other areas. But if you know why you're doing something, you can get behind it a whole lot more than if you're just doing it because it feels like something to check box off the list. And I read a book a while ago.
Wow. That is so awesome.
It just mentioned something for manufacturing. It's really interesting for contentment. The historical automotive industry, you were just kind of a checkbox person if you were on the assembly line. You really didn't have any influence, anything like that. It wasn't looked upon from the management as the workers had any real influence. So it really would, I think, counter any contentment that was driven. And then Toyota came along and came up with their production system, which the essence of it is everybody has the same kind of voice. Anybody can grab the line and stop, grab the wire and stop the entire production line if something's going wrong. So they gave empowerment and contentment to the people on the production line. But imagine going to that job where you felt like you really had an influence and importance in it, and you had the power to execute
Wow.
what it was. That to me is just astounding. And the quality of Toyota's products were far superior to the other manufacturers, especially back at the time in the 80s, 90s.
That is so awesome, Rich. You touched on something that is so critical for today's leadership. If you are on our call on Facebook Live and you're in a position of leadership in the workplace, it's so important that we empower the people, because they could help our businesses grow to the next level. They have vision. We're not tapping into the vision in the mind. They've been doing the processes longer. They're closer to it. If you're not tapping into it, it's going to be a point of frustration for the individual, because they have so much to offer the organization, and they want to contribute on that level. And so that's why Toyota experienced such greater win, what you say, Rich, is because they capitalized on what they hired people with skills for a reason. But if you're micromanaging and you're not tapping into the intellect, the know-how, and to get it for input, just allow them to know that they're part of the something greater, I guess is what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's two more brief little comments going back to the whys and looking at our, the example we're following Jesus, and he was ultimately content. Okay? I say it, this is kind of a silly phrase, but if we have nothing to prove, we have nothing to prove, right? If I'm not looking to prove anything, and Jesus, when he was with his disciples, wasn't really looking to prove anything. He didn't need to get the feedback from them that he was okay.
Yeah.
He was okay. And in that contentment, he influenced their contentment to move forward. And they grabbed a hold of the mission and went and did it. But I think it was what changed them was the resurrection, when they really became content, we would say, in what they got from Jesus filled them to overflow. So at that point, then they had nothing to prove. There wasn't, meaning that they weren't looking for the feedback of men to say everything was okay.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
And then they produced a product that changed the world. Right.
Wow.
Jesus started it, but it was everybody else. The production system, we could say, not to make it really belittle the Christian faith, but the production system, so to speak, has been so effective and so long lasting, right? Despite persecution, difficulties, all kinds of historical events where Christians tried to be wiped out, the contentment kept it going. In some ways, you could say it that way.
Wow. And so now you're talking about influence and affluence. It's so important that we understand that we are a source of that contentment. We're going for a couple minutes here, but I want to read a couple of comments that just came in on Facebook. Pamela had to drop off because her standard 1 o'clock appointment, so we enjoyed her up today as well. But Jessica wrote, I agree. Engage and empower our teams to ensure employee satisfaction, yielding an enhanced bottom line, And then Angela said, yes, encouragement goes a long way. People want to give their best Even I believe those that are performers, there's an opportunity to convert that thing, to turn it around by identifying what is that skill level that they're proficient in, and to encourage them along the way. As Angela's added, engage, empower, and within that individual. So this is great. Y'all, if this is helping you, please comment and let us know. And please share with others that we're out here every Wednesday at noon. Okay? Rich, this has been wonderful. I'm so encouraged by this, and I'm so excited that GCBN is in a position to offer this to our members, our sponsors, and the local community, our Facebook community and Zoom. God bless you guys. Thanks for joining us. And we'll be back next week, but join us Tuesday and check out our website. We're doing some wonderful things about putting God back in business. Bless us. Take care.
See ya.
Thanks, Rich.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.